everyone, this is a video tutorial on how to write a conclusion in an argumentative research paper. And a conclusion is really where you have a chance to develop ethos once again by really showing credibility that you've created this organized essay and that you've put some thought into what you're saying and you understand the structure of what you've said. So you're really reviewing what your main argument has been up until this point. You're going to start by restating your thesis. And as you can see in my comments, you're putting this in new words, but it should really convey what your central argument has been in your paper. So I start with a transitional phrase in the end. If you want to look up concluding transitional phrases, you'll find a lot of different ways that you can end your paper. In the end, the data shows that teenagers are increasingly dependent on digital news sources, and that is how they first encounter political dialogue and civics education. Compared with other countries, they are more likely to encounter inaccurate information and are less likely to discuss these issues with their parents. Okay, so that is basically summarizing what my main argument has been throughout this paper. What I'm not doing here is I am not bringing in any new data. Okay, this is not the time to pull out that one statistic or note card that you didn't use. Okay, the point here is to kind of bring everything to a close and review what you've been saying. So bringing in new data is kind of not the point here. Okay, the next part that I'm doing, and remember, because these are examples, I've put them into separate sections and I've labeled them. When you're actually writing this, it's going to become all one paragraph and you're not going to label your points. I don't need to know that. If you've done it right, it'll be clear what you're doing. In recent years, okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is review some of the main points of my argument. In recent years, students have shown increasing interest in getting news from online sources. Schools are unsure how to deal with their current civics education, and experts suggest that more needs to be taught in schools about our government and current events. This is different from other countries where civics is emphasized more. Okay, so again, I'm finding a new way to give this information, but basically that's been my central argument up until this point. I also noted in my comment here that it doesn't matter which order you put this. You could start by reviewing your main points and then restating your thesis. It really depends on the way that you think works the best for your paragraph. Okay. Now, the last part you need to put last because this is where you really bring things to a conclusion. And basically, you're doing something that's sort of the opposite of your attention grabber, not really opposite, but it's operating in a similar way but doing something different. And the same thing with your whole conclusion. Your whole conclusion is kind of like an inversion of your introduction. You start out by introducing everything and summarizing it, and here you're bringing things to a close by summarizing it. The very end, there are a lot of different ways, and there's no ways to end your paper, and there's no one way to end a paper. But I have found that this is really helpful for students to have some sort of call to action. And what I mean by that is how you want people to respond to your research. Maybe what should we change in our country, or how should other countries change? Or what should we continue doing that's working well? So I just feel like this kind of brings things to a close, and you're saying, look, I'm not writing this for no point. Like we need to do something about this, or we need to take pride in what we're doing right. So here's my example of a call to action. What should people do in response? Oh, that is needs to be part of this. Sorry. Okay. Leaders in education and government authorities need to do more research about how to help students analyze digital news sources for inaccuracies and how to have an increased emphasis on civics engagement. The internet allows for increased interaction with a range of voices. It's up to the nation's leaders to help make that happen. Okay. And in this case, I'm particularly calling for action from leaders in education. And I've actually been thinking about this a lot in the last 2 weeks because I've been seeing a lot of misinformation about coronavirus online. It's everywhere. And I feel like there's a few skills that we really need to work on when we get back to school. One is knowing how to understand statistics and data. And the limits of statistics and data, because I keep seeing all this kind of misinterpretation of the numbers that are out there, or not understanding how those numbers kind of actually work. And I've also seen just a lot of fake news and a lot of fake cures and a lot of fake information about what's going on. So I think we all need to do better in education on doing that and helping people to sort through that. But that's how this would actually work. Make it into one paragraph, and then that's done. And then you're adding your works cited page on the whole a whole next page. Okay, starting at the top of the next page. Okay, so you're also double spacing this, just writing it like your paper. I'm going to continue making these video tutorials. I hope they're helpful to have these kind of short chunks to work with. Thank you all for your work, and I'll see you in the next video.